I'm live. Let me know if you can hear me. Alrighty. Yeah, let me know if you can hear me. I'll start, I guess I'll narrate, and if you can't hear me, I'll narrate what I'm doing again. But my plan is to work on a patch for WordPress core to change some terms that show up in the variable names, and also some comments and things like that. Specifically, we're going to look for the words blacklist and whitelist, and we're going to change them to, I think for now, blocklist and safe list, which are terms that I've used in like some of my own code, and I think other software has used and makes sense in this situation. I think once we have the patch, if people like allow list or deny list better, we'll be able to change that. Yeah, so I was just doing a search on GitHub to find all the places in the WordPress code where they show up, and that'll kind of help us figure out the scope of what we need to do. I'm also setting up a local dev environment. I have that running here through Flywheel Local, and this is just a basic WordPress site with no changes yet, which is good to work with. I'll also be like creating a ticket in the track system, which is what WordPress uses to manage development and talk about things. And they also use GitHub, and they also kind of have like an interesting connection between track and GitHub that I haven't ever used for when I've done development on WordPress core. So I'm going to look into that. My dev environment I have now is not set up to do WordPress core development. I usually, I work on my own plugins and our own products, and it's set up for that right now. So I'm going to be, and I haven't done that for like probably over a year. So I'm going to be relearning and doing some of that. So I might stumble through some of this. But I think that'll be fun for folks to watch as well. And oh, it sounds good. Audio sounds good. Okay, cool. I was struggling with the mic. Great. So I'll do that. I'm trying to log into the back end of my local development site, which is going slow. It's usually really snappy, so that's a little disconcerting. But nothing is easy. And that's something about this. Like, definitely, this is an important change to make already. And let me try to find the link on and when I get into the WordPress install. Yeah, we'll see. Why isn't my install working? I can't even log in. Something was going on there. And what I was going to say was that already, it might be on the general or the discussion tab in the settings. Is it reading or discussion? Yeah, we have this term, this comment block list. This used to be called the Blacklist, and there was already a patch, and I'll link to it. I'm not sure what version of WordPress updated that, but on the front end of WordPress, when users are interacting with WordPress, we've changed that language, which is really important because there's hundreds of millions of people who interact with WordPress. And this is a case where, they're not going to encounter what's an insensitive word, right? You might as well use these words have connotations that are bad, and it, change in this case, like one letter changes that seems like a pretty easy change. And actually the change was made on the front end. So the word blocklist and probably whitelist doesn't show up anywhere to users of WordPress, but there's still some cases where it shows up in the code. And so there's a smaller community of coders of WordPress, and let's, change those words there. Not just like for people who stumble upon this code, but this is open source software. And so this code gets copied. People look to WordPress. Definitely if you're building a WordPress plugin, you'll be like, oh, I wonder how WordPress does it. And you'll take a look at WordPress and look at their code and just copy how they do it. And so if we stop this now, we kind of remove these terms for the future. At the same time, like I have a saying in software development is that nothing is easy. So I've seen videos of, it's a one character change. It takes 30 seconds. That's often true. I just had trouble logging into WordPress to get started. And I think I'm going to spend about 3 hours on this, which may be enough time to get through some of it. But I think you'll find as I'm going through this, some of these changes are easy and some of these changes are kind of hard. And that's not an excuse not to do them. I think people have to weigh, like the effort of doing these versus the benefit that is there. But it's I think it's also interesting just from a technical perspective of if you're not familiar with development on large projects, like why would changing a single word that's not even front facing be a hard thing to do? And like you might learn that. And so within this context of, making a change to use more inclusive terms, but within any context of like even, a customer saying like, I wish, there was 2 things in this drop down instead of 3. Why is that hard? I think it's interesting to me, like why sometimes software development is hard when you don't expect it to be. I guess there's 4 people viewing. So it's like my mom, the person I asked to check the audio, and maybe a couple other people, but, yeah, feel free to ask me, questions in the live chat and, any kind of coding questions or questions about, the social issues around this, and I'll do my best to answer them based on my knowledge. And sometimes it's hard to talk and code at the same time. So I'll try to get to the questions, but we may have to follow up after the stream too. Cool. So I have these searches. I'm in the admin of WordPress. So I have a base WordPress install. I'm going to quick try to find the core ticket. Like I said, for that front end change, because there was some discussion while that was being done around also doing it in the back end of the code. And I'm going to piggyback off that core ticket. Excuse me, when I'm doing the work I'm doing now. I think, there's some discussion already, so I want to make sure that I don't ignore what other people have kind of found and pointed out for that. So I'm just going to check my notes and find that quick. Yeah. John Blackburn is an awesome WordPress developer. He linked me to it on Twitter, so I found the link there. And I also, I guess, hey, Ken, I also can hand wave over, what track is. I'm logged in as myself here. Okay. So track is a ticket system that WordPress has used, and it might have used it from the beginning. I don't know, like this is an old ticket system, and I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know if WordPress is the only project that uses it anymore, but it's definitely been like altered specifically for WordPress use. And the WordPress team uses it for, WordPress core development, and also like theme review and plugin reviews, and all like the WordPress.org website itself, and, for all kinds of things. But you can see, this is a fun thing to browse. And if you ever, if you go to a WordCamp and there is a contributor day, that's like the best opportunity to learn more about WordPress core contributions on the code side, or any side really, and kind of find someone to mentor you through how to use track, stuff like that. But it's also like, if you can explore, it's a good thing. Like if you ever have a question like, I wonder if WordPress does this, or why hasn't WordPress done that, or I heard there was going to be this change. You can kind of search the ticket yourself for related things. That's kind of what I did the other day. I saw some discussion around GitHub, and using Git in general, of changing, the main branch that's created with a new Git repository from master to main or something like that. And so that kicked off, people were talking about, hey, yeah, we got to change these terms. And I remember about a year ago, we did this in Paid Memberships Pro. There was one case where we had a blacklist, and we deprecated that use. And so around that time, I think other projects were changing the terms. And it just made me think like, hey, has WordPress done that yet? And I searched, and I found this core track ticket. Were these fellows? These are great people too. Yeah, Aaron Jordan here, I think, did the work on the patch. And I was like, oh, like, has WordPress done it? And I noticed there were still some cases in the code that's up on GitHub. And I was like, oh, is anyone else working on this? No one else was. And so I think like I'm finding there's a lot of things in life in general, and software and open source software development for sure, where we kind of all work with this stuff and we're like, oh, someone else is going to get to it. And they may not, like people are busy or unwilling or don't have the skill set or something like that. And so when I found it this time, I was like, oh, like I'm kind of capable of navigating this, of at least figuring out what the context of the development that's needed and kind of either doing it, and we'll see how far we get with the patch, or queuing it up for someone else to kind of take it further. And so it's like, oh, I expected someone else to do this, but really, am I the person who's meant to do it today? So we'll do it together. Excuse me. So I'm gonna read through this quick. Just I read through it, but like very quickly, and I just want to make sure I don't miss anything on some of the discussion. And then I'll start taking notes. Here, I'll open just like an Atom editor. Which is also going slow. I should have done, my kids play games on my computer, and I probably should have rebooted before streaming just to like close out all the random games my kids are playing. Why did my Atom editor launch? Excuse me. Okay, cool. I'll save a note to the desktop here. And eventually this will become, excuse me, I have coffee, which like tickles my throat, and I should get water too. So eventually this will become the basis of what I post in the track ticket for what I find and what to do. And the first step of this is like, let's figure out the scope of what we need to do. There's a few different places in the code where these terms come up, blacklist and whitelist. And some of it's WordPress core code. Some of it is third-party code. Some of it is probably going to be like a quick search and replace, and some of it is going to be code that is used outside of WordPress core, potentially by plugins or things of that nature, where that dependent code was expecting the term whitelist, and now it's going to be something else. And so we'll probably have to do some work to like deprecate the use in a way that's going to be backwards compatible. And we can talk about that more when we get to it. I know how I've done that on my own code, and I'll have some ideas around that, but I think like WordPress has done things like that before, where they deprecate a use, and then, there's kind of a time frame for people to upgrade before it just gets deleted totally. Thanks. All right. Yeah, this is a note. Here's the track ticket updated language on the front end. Okay, cool. So I'll make sure that I mark that as a related ticket. Okay, so Aaron said the UI should absolutely be updated. Doesn't want to change the underlying option, as that's back compat breakage, unless we added code to handle that, but we would still be in a situation where Blacklist is supported in the code. Okay. So that's the point. So this is Aaron, Jordan here saying that, I don't know if he looked into it more or just was assuming. Like, I assume he looked into it a bit. He's very involved in core development and a really smart guy. That like, hey, you can't just change those variable names without potentially breaking something. And then if you add code to handle it, you're still using the word blacklist potentially somewhere. So is it worth doing? But this guy agreed. Update the documentation. That's another thing too, is kind of, I know in a lot of other projects, it's like, hey, we can update the term, but like specifically for like the Git branch, default branch name, like that term is used in books and across the web and everywhere. And again, it's not an excuse to like totally shut down the idea of changing the default branch name. It seems like GitHub, I think, is moving in that direction, and the Git team is considering it. But it's like, hey, we update the code, but you also have to update documentation as well. So that's something that is especially true for this front end version that got updated. But I think in the back end, there might be functions and filters and stuff that use it. Cool. So it looks like okay, so this is pretty simple. They said, hey, let's change it. Let's at least do it on the front end. And they decided 6 months ago not to do it on the back end. And this code is live, like I showed. I think it went out. I don't know if it went out in like 5.4 or it might say at the bottom here. Okay, milestone 5.4. So it's already got merged in and went out. Now, I looked around. I'm pretty sure there's no other discussions on track about this. I can search to maybe do a better search just in case. There's some related to the same bug. This is the one we looked at. We'll look at this one. This is a feature request. But, so it's maybe like if people say inclusive. That's kind of how people are framed, like use inclusive language. And that's the one we looked at. Those are right. Cool, so I don't see any other checks. I'm gonna look at these, the wrong description. What happened here? This might have been just, this is the use of this function. But this is actually a good thing too, because I'm looking at this ticket. This was 2 months ago. I think this is unrelated to changing the inclusivity of it, but these people are working on the same code. Like this function is a function in WordPress, and there's potentially, the description doesn't match up with how the function works, it seems. So I think they're just, we can look at, oh, here, this is a new feature I want to check out too. In track, you used to, WordPress core development uses SVN, which is, it's a version, which is a versioning management system. And then Git is a very popular, version management software. And so SVN is like the old school and Git is the new school, but like, for a lot of reasons, WordPress core development is still on SVN. And so you would create a patch in SVN, and that's what you would upload. And that's what Jorben did on that other ticket. He uploaded a patch file. And that's how in track, they would keep track of the potential patches and how, things are going to get changed in code. On Git, in GitHub in particular, like it kind of handles things a little, with a little more modern UI and ease of use. And so anyway, there's some kind of bridge here where like you can create a pull request on this GitHub repository, WordPress develop. There's a WordPress this Git repository is just a mirror of like the latest version of WordPress. But this WordPress develop repo is specifically used, and I need to learn more about this actually, like with SVN so instead of having them create a patch, you can create a pull request and then link to it. And then you get all the power of like GitHub does automatic checks of like make sure that your code is using standards and it doesn't just automatically break things. And then also, people are I think potentially commenting, although maybe they have rules in place. It'd be interesting to see these other pull requests saying like, hey, keep the comments to track so that there's only one place. But it's cool. Like GitHub is kind of a little bit easier for me in my everyday use now to use than SVN, so it's kind of cool. Okay, this is the change. And so, yeah, the suggested change was in the language of like the paragraph preceding this feature here for the block list. And so that's an interesting change. In this case, I think I'm not changing this paragraph, so our two changes to merge, but it's good for me to check track, because if they were like, instead, I'm going to change the function to work differently, and I'm making another change to the function to use different variable names, those two patches are going to conflict with each other, and it's going to cause issues. All right, GitHub patch needs to be successful. And then I think this actually was already merged in, so it's for 5.5. Man, I'm going to remind myself like what version of WordPress we're on. For prosperity of people watching this later, we're on 5.4.2, which just came out a couple days ago, and 5.5 is in the works. But this was already, I think this being commented out means it was already merged in. Anyway, interesting. So you get to see me kind of browse track here a little bit. This was that that other change, the patch file that just changed the language on the front end. And then this breaks all the translations. All the translations have to go in and update their translations as well. And but again, this was done like a version ago. Hopefully everyone's done that. Cool. So I'm not going to start a ticket yet. I'm going to kind of keep track in a notepad and then kind of post it when I'm done, because I'd like to, you know, say how far I got with things. The other thing I did last week was I reached out on Slack and I asked, I was like, hey, is anyone working on this? And some people said, yeah, we'd like that. But no one in particular is working on it. And I think the gentleman I spoke to was one of the leads on the 5.5 release. And he kind of gave me the go ahead, like, yeah, like if you work on this, they'll consider it for like the 5.5 release or like a soon release. So in the WordPress world, and I think in other big open source projects, it's kind of important to get into the conversation with the people who are, you know, the leaders of the project, people with commit access, people, you know, who are actively working on the project. You could have the best idea ever for an improvement, and you could even do all the work and kind of serve it up to them on a silver platter and say, you know, here's, you know, 2 paragraphs explain why this is a good thing to do, and here's all the code that just does it automatically. But in reality, they're busy people, and if they weren't kind of involved from the beginning, they may not, you know, just blindly accept your merge request, because I'm sure when I'm done with all this work, like, you'd be surprised sometimes people find other dependencies or other things, and you know, and they're just acting as gatekeepers for the open source project to make sure that all the code that comes in, you know, works and doesn't break the sites running it. So I do this like in my own projects. You know, sometimes people give us like, hey, I did all the work, here it is, and you're like, I don't even have time to read that. And then you have to start the conversation then, you know, whereas if you started earlier. But so that's all to say that I've reached out on Slack, and I spent a little bit of time talking with them and kind of got to go ahead to try and work on this. So man, yeah, half hour of preamble already. Let's get to work a little bit. So I think if I use the GitHub search, I use the GitHub search a lot. You could, you know, there's other ways to search the code base, but I just kind of like this interface. And I just search for those terms that I'm particularly looking for here to change. And these 2 terms show up in kind of the same files in the same areas. And more use of blacklist and whitelist. And I think I'm just going to document like the different cases here. So this was like the blacklist search. I'll keep this on one monitor so we can keep track. So let me link through to the code. This one's an interesting one too, and this is one I looked at. This password strength meter.js is it's using. So I'm just going to note that this is where we, you know, this file uses blacklist. I think only. Maybe it has a whitelist. I might use whitelist too here. No. But this code is WordPress code, but it's based on a library for figuring out password strength, the ZXCVBN library, and that library uses the term blacklist. And so this is one of the tougher things to figure out how to update, I think, because we can update our code to use blacklist, right? But we're going to translate it to using blacklist when we use you know, I'm sorry, this is such a weird, does this have like a pronunciation like Zex? I forget. We were just coding this in yeah, whatever, ZXC. This the password strength library still uses the term blacklist, and so we want to pass along the term that they use, because that's going to be confusing, I think, for users if the term changes potentially. Or like another option is to do the development upstream, and this is managed on GitHub, so I can kind of look. Maybe they're working on it. I thought it was. I don't know if this is the original or a copy. Oh, did Dropbox build this? And here's the thing too, like, so, see if these are probably just functional issues. So actually, they don't have a blacklist. So maybe the blacklist portion is part of our code and not their code. Oh, so I'm gonna dig into it. I kind of made an assumption on some things I looked at. WP password strength, password and black, an array of words that will lower the entropy of the password. So maybe this blacklist functionality, and I apologize in advance, you're going to hear me use these terms kind of interchangeably as I'm digging through the code here. Anyway, the block list that's added, called blacklist here, might be added just to this wrapper of the password strength library. I actually thought it was kind of part of the library, but it maybe isn't. And so if we change some of these function names, would it still work? Yeah, so I'm just gonna take that note because that's an important note. So I had that thought when I looked at it. I was like, oh, we're using this password strength meter library, and they probably use the term blacklist, so we have to use what they use potentially, or work with them to change it. But I think that's not the case. So I think that I'm going to take a note though, and I think I'm going to make a decision to call it, like, when I'm talking about this, like blocklist functionality. Like that'll just help me like hammer home the point that I like that term, and that's the one we want to use. The blocklist functionality is is only in our WP code. One word, 2 words? I don't know, man. A resource I use a lot because I wrote a book for O'Reilly. They have a style guide and they have words. And maybe I should talk to them because they don't have blocklist. They probably have blacklist as a word. No? Am I on the right page? Yeah, wait, hold on. Maybe I need the word list. All right, yeah. So they don't have the word blocklist in here, but there's a lot of words. Like if you want internet, it's capital I, or login with 1 or 2 spaces. They kind of like O'Reilly as a whole across all their tech books kind of tries to make a decision on what they think is kind of most popular and in use. I think I'll do 1 word. So anyway, so this library doesn't have a blocklist. So I'm just gonna write a note here for now because I'm really just in the planning stages. Is like I think we can just change the function and variable names, and everything will work. What we need to check if other plugins, and actually I know of one at least, are using the specific blacklist. Well, actually, there's a here. Sorry, the user input blacklist. Method, or setting the. I think there's a property for this. We use this password strength in our own code for paid memberships pro. So I know of at least one case where we do it. Yeah. And actually, maybe I'll link to this. Like, here's any plugin that tries to build on top of, or tries to utilize the password strength meter, and if it potentially uses the blacklist, the user input blacklist method, is going to break if we change that. So, you know, at least one use here. And there's probably others. Like I don't think like we just did this code like a few months ago too. It's interesting. I don't think we're the only ones. So I mean, we could do like a search for this kind of thing across code. There's another tool. Man, I wish I could remember it now. Maybe I'll dig it up. Someone linked me to a tool that you can like search the plugin repository. So you could, you know, search all plugins in the repo for this term and kind of figure out how many and which plugins use that. So I think I'm going to dig that up. I might not waste the time now. Not waste or use the time now. So cool. Yeah, for now I think we know there's at least one, and I can just imagine that other login related and password related plugins probably have to do something similar. So that means that so I think we definitely like it'll still work in, you know, like well, actually here, so we want to find, I think, uses also in the WordPress core. For this specific function. So user profile.js. So this JavaScript uses it to, you know. So actually, so it's like, you know, what would we have to do? Like one, you know, change the method and variable names in this file. Two, this other WP core file uses the old method name. And then three, at least one here. So four, we eventually need to keep a version of the old method. It's complicated. So what we could do, and we could get into it when we dig into the code, is if we ended up, yeah, and I apologize, I'm gonna get confused by my tabs all the time I do this. So we're here. Here we are, sorry. This is the password strength meter.js file. And if we change this method name to be called user input blocklist, we'll create another function below here called, oh, it says my stream is not doing well. You know what I should do? Update my Wi-Fi to prioritize my PC. 1 second. Let me see. We're on laptops. Cool, that's helping. All right, hopefully, I don't know if I need to, if anyone's still in there. Okay, yeah. YouTube's warning me about the video quality, and like my little preview stopped working. So I just got worried that y'all weren't seeing me. So Ken, I see you see me there. So Ken Kramer, thanks. If you notice problems with the video or audio, let me know in the comments there so I can take a closer look, and maybe I'll change my stream settings. Where was I? Oh, I was saying, okay, so if we rename this function name, this method here, we'll create another one using the old name underneath that basically is just a wrapper. It would say, if you call user input blacklist, then just return user input blacklist. And then even in PHP, and I'd have to find if there's like a JavaScript version, in PHP, you can throw a notice, like a deprecation notice, and say, hey, like I noticed that you're using this old function name. You should update your code to use the new function name. And that just puts a notice like in the error logs for people to see, so that hopefully it gets their attention. And I don't know what WordPress's policies are generally when they do that kind of deprecation, like if it's based on like major issue or major versions, or like a certain time frame, like 1 or 2 years. But the idea would be like a couple years later, you would just clean up and say, okay, everyone's had a chance to update their old code. Like now we get rid of the term forever. And I think that's what we might have to do. So when I get to work on a patch for this, I think that's probably the tact I'll take, is kind of keep the old one around. At least in the comment, have a deprecation note, and then in the throw a notice of some sort if you can. And I've done that in PHP for WordPress, but I haven't done that in JavaScript, so I'd have to search about how to do that. Cool, so that's one. I think we have a plan for this file. Okay, let's find the other uses. And so here's another case where this, I believe, is a library. Let's take a look at it. And maybe I'll try to clean up my tabs. I link to this stuff. Okay. Cool. So this is sodium. I don't know what this does. I mean, the other thing is that like I have fun digging through like the WordPress code and just learning what's going on in there. What even is the sodium? What is this? Is there a README? I have to Google here. Oh, there's probably info in the composer. What is this? Pure PHP implementation of libsodium. This is like a cryptography thing. I should know, right? It's gonna be something I'm like, oh, I should have known that. Networking and cryptography. Oh, look at that. NaCl, libsodium, cryptography library. And here it is on GitHub. And is this the one, probably like a similar version to what we use? Or, yeah, actually what I'm looking at here, this is I saw a C file. So is there like a PHP version? All right, so we're learning about this. Fun. So this one I found here is, it looked like some kind of C, but there's a PHP implementation of libsodium uses the PHP extension of x6. So maybe we need to search for like libsodium PHP. No, it's not managed on GitHub, which is okay. Not everything is. Oh, or maybe it's just kind of has a different. So this is the same name. This is the same either user or organization here as libsodium, and then this is the PHP version. Okay, and is low-level PHP extension. This is a PHP extension, which is also written in C. So you can install that through Perl, but Pear. But if you there's got to be a version that is. This is also not the version that we're using here. Oh, I mean, actually, there's a reason. Like, this is a composer. It's on composer. So what I did there actually was and this, I don't know, like if this is interesting. These are like me digging around code. I'm trying to figure out what this is. There's a composer is a package manager, and so this JSON file here has like the metadata for the package, and there has a name. So I should have done this at first. It's like, this is actually the package name. And I just went with the first Google result, which happens to be a GitHub repository. And this is the one. So, you know, here's a gentleman, Frank Dennis, who looks like he's involved in like the C version of libsodium. And then there's like a PHP extension, meaning like you install this on your server and then you get a libsodium command in PHP. And then this one is pure PHP, meaning you just copy the PHP code into your PHP project and you get to use libsodium. And so this seems to be the version that WordPress is using. And I guess finding it is just interesting to me. What is it? But then also I think it shows me like this is an included library that someone else maintains that uses these terms. So there's a lot of that in WordPress, so like included libraries of sorts. And so this really is in our code to change. In some extreme cases, I think there are libraries that WordPress will either alter or fork, but it shouldn't be the first choice. Like I think you try to get the package to change something that's needed, like if there's a bug or something. And if they won't for some reason, then you got to consider, you know, forking it or making your own version, or just kind of, yeah. I think some of these libraries they've forked, and so I think there are a few that aren't necessarily forked, but it's in that case where like we're using, you know, we have to apply this patch to the library every time we build, basically, which is really kind of weird. That's just a guess there. So someone on the core dev team is like, we don't ever do that kind of hacky stuff in WordPress core. Just, you know, feel free to let me know at YouTube comment. But in this case anyway, like, hey, we want to change this term blacklist. It shows up in our bundled code. But this library is managed by someone else. Like this is a dependency. So we kind of want to ask them to do it. And let me see if anyone has done that. Maybe someone suggested it already. So I'm just gonna take a note. I'm not gonna do it now. I think this is the, yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is the one where they work. So I'm gonna take a note. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my notes here. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna copy this link and say, how should I organize this? Like, so it's like, here are the instances where and I might like letter them. I don't know. That seems good, right? Okay, B. And put some kind of separator here for me, and then say B. The sodium compat library uses the term in its code. And then we can say, one, I think what we should do is we should, so we can say like, I couldn't find any, or something like, okay, we should ask the maintainers of that library to consider changing, you know, okay. I didn't, or I believe this is the repo. I didn't find any existing issues or PRs to address this. You know what? Well, yeah. What I could do too is search the code. Hold on. In this repository. Okay, I thought there was like an off chance that they made the change and they just didn't, you know, there was no issue or PR against it and we just didn't have the latest version. Issues or PRs that address this, you know, like we could create an issue or pull request. Okay, cool. That's that's that one. 5 viewers. My dad's watching also now. All right. All right, back here. Sodium compat. So there's a couple places. This is the same. These are two different versions of the same, library that's included. I don't know if WordPress uses both, but cool. All right, next instance here. And this one's kind of interesting to me. I don't know what's going on here. So the 2019 theme has a package.json. And I think this is for, composer.json. It's some of that. It's for, why is it? It's failing me, like the name of this package manager. Webpack, maybe? What the hell? I'm searching it on another thing because I don't know why that's hard for me. Anyway. All right, I don't want to give you guys misleading information. NPM, oh, the node package manager. Okay, yeah, duh. Okay, I don't know why I thought it was specific to something else. Okay, the node package manager uses package.json files. It's another kind of repository. It's used for a bunch of stuff. It kind of like when Gutenberg development started happening with WordPress, like a lot of the Gutenberg code uses Node. So that's what's going on here. Okay, so this RTL CSS config has a blacklist. It's empty anyway. So this seems to be, yeah, let's learn about this thing. What is this? RTL CSS. Is that right to left? Yeah. Convert left to right CSS files to right to left using the command line. So this is the npm. Excuse me. What's interesting here is like when you're on GitHub, you can see people who've interacted with this file, and sometimes it's just the usual suspects who like interact with almost every file. But it's also kind of like, here's a developer who if I need to like ask questions about how this works or like why this is or what we could do, I can look here and be like, these are people that be worth reaching out to. All right, so this right to left CSS config has a blacklist option, and we set it to empty curly braces. Why do we do that? Do we have to do that? And again, this might be a case like, do we want to tell them, pass it up the chain like, hey, can you change your thing? So let's look at, I guess I want to here, search for that and just find the docs for this. Options. Blacklist. An object. So the default is empty. An object mapped with disabled plugin directives where keys are plugin names and value or object hash disabled. So I'm thinking this might be an optional value. There are other options that like, is this greedy option? I'm sorry, I'm like, okay, we do. Let's look back and forth. Auto rename, strike clean, greedy, process URL string map. This use calc, that might be a new one, isn't on here. So I'm pretty sure like if we just don't pass that, the default is empty curly braces anyway. So, all right, so let's copy that link, go back to my notes and say C, like the 2019 npm package.json has some config options for right to left CSS. Let me get the right capitalization. RTL CSS. I'll put that in there because that's what it's called in that file. So it has has one option, a config option, you know, called Blacklist. Okay, and then we can say, like, based on this doc, let's see, the Blacklist value is set to open close curly brace. The default is open close curly brace, and I mean, I don't know if I can make this judgment now, but kind of, you know, I'm just introduced to this library. I've never used it before. You know, directly. Seems actually pretty cool. Like making your theme right to left from left to right, kind of automatically is really cool. Actually, I wonder if Kim, we've built a theme, Memberlight, and I wonder if we use some version of this. Maybe not through npm because we don't do that in our theme, but like we use some version of this, this library. But anyway, like the default is empty, you know, like an empty array here. Like I think that's unlikely to change. I don't think it's, you know, the project is going to add things that are blocked, like plugins that are blocked. You know, so yeah. So I think I'm going to say this here. I'm going to go on a limb. All right. So based on the doc, the default is empty and unlikely to change, in my opinion. We maybe I should point out also, like there is another option, you know, that isn't set in our package.json. So so I'm gonna put like a number. We can remove this line and nothing should break. If Jason can find it, where was it? Okay, here. Okay, we can remove this line and nothing will break. Oh, one thing I'm doing here, I've done this before for core development, even before they had that cool like GitHub integration. I'll figure it out later. Maybe not. I'll think now. I'm linking to just a WordPress GitHub repo. There's that WordPress-develop GitHub repo, which might be just a little bit better to link to, since that's like where the pull requests are going to go. So maybe I'll do that. Or like when you're linking the code in a track ticket, I mean, there's a code browser on track that you can browse the SVN repository. So I should potentially be using those links. I think I'll probably, because I want to test the WordPress develop GitHub PR link eventually when we get to the coding session of this session. Time check, we're an hour in, and so we did some planning, and now we're digging through the code, and I'm just figuring out what I'm going to do, and I haven't actually started coding yet. Okay, but yeah, I think I'm going to link to that WordPress develop. So I mean, I have a couple links. I'll go through and fix them up before I post this to track. So just a mental note for that. Cool. And Kim, who made the Memberlight theme for us, says that when she does right to left, she says, I manually rebuild the right to left spreadsheet right now and not using a library. If you're interested, that's good. Okay. Maybe we should use that library if it's good. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. That's a kind of, you know, accessibility, inclusivity things. Like when you're doing theme work, there's quite a bit of the population of the earth has a right to left language, and they view websites going from, I'm going to mess up my hand waving, especially considering my video isn't working, but it goes right to left instead of left to right. And so a lot of your style sheets saying put the sidebar on the right should probably be updated to put the sidebar on the left, or vice versa. And so I think the WordPress.org repository asks you, like, requires that you do that to be listed there. But it's a good thing to do in your code anyway, if it's any kind of like front end open source code. that's going to be used is include like an optional right to left style sheet that can be enabled for, you know, if the website isn't a right to left language. All right, cool. So I think we just removed that. It's no big deal. Awesome. I mean, that's the other thing is we're going to have to test or potentially write tests for a lot of these things. So that'll be fun to do as well. Next. Okay, 2020. So this is the same thing. I'm going to double check. It's the same. Yeah, right to left CSS config. And here's kind of what I was talking about. Like, why is it important to remove these terms? You know, it takes work. The work involved is only going to get harder as more and more things, you know, build on top of this open source software. Like, I would bet that when the 2020 theme was developed, they just copy and pasted the 2019 package manager, or both of them copy and pasted from the same, you know, another theme or another source or another, you know, blog post on the web. And so kind of cleaning up this code now means that like future code isn't good. We're not going to like embed this language into the code, you know, for posterity. So I work in code all day, every day. So I'm sensitive to the amount of effort that goes into making what seem like simple changes, but also kind of, it only gets harder as time goes on. So I think it's based on us as a community to figure out, you know, what needs to be done. But yeah, okay. Okay, this, yeah, right. All right, so I'm going to write this down at least though. So yeah, that's the same, same as 2020. Okay, but I'll just put it down here for completeness. All right, the 2020 theme, yeah, npm package has the same line as above. We can move this line and nothing. You know what? I said will break. I'm gonna soften my language here. I'm gonna say should break. Nothing should break. You know, part of this is I'm gonna have hopefully I get to the code part, but I'm gonna have code and I'm gonna have a lot of notes, and I'm gonna share this with the developer who's also busy, and they're gonna have to read through it, and people who know more than me about, you know, whatever each individual instance of like this bit of code I'm changing, and they'll be able to confirm. I mean, I can confirm it through testing as well. Excuse me. And I saw like this is like an npm. Like I think, yeah, actually, there's a weird way how these themes are developed and merged into WordPress. So that's the thing too. Like I guess I'll do a potential. I don't know if the core theme development happens in the core WordPress repo, or if you have to kind of change it in a theme repo and then it gets pulled in. Because actually the fact that it's managed through npm means that there might be some repo that needs to be changed. And so especially because this is just a one-line fix, I might not even like do a pull request that does this, because I bet that change has to happen somewhere else. Yeah, okay, next. We're about, where there's another page, so we'll see. I think we're, I don't know, at least a quarter of the way through. Most of the whitelist ones show up in the same places the blacklist ones do, I believe. Maybe not though. Oh man, this looks like, what did I think this was? Just 24? 13 of these, never mind. We're not that close, but anyway, we're doing good work. Okay, we'll see how far we get. I'll try to speed up and have less commentary. All right. Oh, okay, so options discussion. Excuse me. Yeah. So this is the same area where they took the front facing, you know, it says blocklist now, but even in the HTML, the ID of the field is blacklist, because this for, like when you create a label in HTML, you say which field it's for. So this for links this label with this text area. And I'm pretty sure it links by name in that ID. Oh, it matches by ID. Will it match by name? Here, we should test this. This is interesting. All right, back of my head. This is what I'm saying. Like, everything is a rabbit hole. Okay, so let me load again. Here are the discussion settings. Okay, when I click on this, it works. Okay, when I click on this label, I don't know if you can see this on the screen. It focuses on the related text area, and that's kind of the purpose of saying like, hey, this label is for this text area. Oh, it has it. All right, I just didn't see the ID because it's over here. Okay, is that in the code here too? Never mind. I saw just the name. I was like, maybe this field doesn't even have an ID. The 4 here matches the ID. It also has a name. The name is what gets passed to the server when you submit the form. So 100, it's silly. Silly in the sense that like almost always you want your ID and your name to match. But we could change the blacklist. We could change this and this to blocklist with no change. But the name here is related to the server code. So we're going to have to update our server code as well. So let me start like a new line here. I like having these, makes it a little easier to scan. Let's see. E. Okay, so, you know, like using blacklist keys in HTML attributes. Comment blacklist field on reading options, discussion options page, and then let's link to that. And then what are we going to do about it? Okay, cool. This, okay, so what we can say, like I said, you know, it's like one, we can like change all blacklist keys to blocklist keys, right? And then I want to say that the text area, when we change the name of the text area, we will also need to change the, you know, the name of the server code. And we have to find that server code. I'm assuming it's earlier in this. Oh, nope. We have to find that. So options discussions, like probably submits here, WP options. And this is like the list of discussion fields. So is there anywhere else? And this is, maybe I'll go quick and not explain everything WordPress does, but it seems like this is like abstracted to like, here's a list of all the options. And the rest of this code is like just automatically updating it, I'm assuming. Like, and we can double check. But you know what I should do too is like start using the, like I said, the WordPress develop. Branch. So even just blacklist keys is in 6 places. And here's a unit test. So that's it, like this term is used in unit test. Cool. So schema. Schedule auto upload to no for these options. Oh, here, this is confusing too. Okay, so you know, yeah. Okay, so if we change that, all right. So go back to my code. It's like, hey, change it. When we change the texture, we'll have to change the name of the parameter we're looking for in the server code. So that's here. Copy here. That would be here. And it seems we can just change the, you know, the name there. But when we change the name of the option, you know, it's going you know, the option is stored in the database with that name. The option is stored in the DB. Or it's like on existing sites. Blacklist keys. And so here are all the other places, you know. So actually, let me copy this link and put that here. Okay, I did that one, and then this. Copy this link and use that instead of this one. Cool. What does this schema file do? I don't know. Let's learn. And then this is, there's a comment and there's formatting. This whole time we've been kind of talking about this one comment. Comment blacklist. And I've scanned through this. What is this really doing? Just to help me, like, okay. If a comment contains any of these words, it will be put in the trash. So you put like Viagra in here, and it automatically gets trashed. Oh, or an IP address. You can block an IP address. It'll match inside words, so press will match WordPress. Cool. So that's an option. We were looking at the code that generates the field. We're looking at the code that like tells WordPress to update it in here, and then here. Okay, cool. So it's like, hey, we're gonna change the name. We gotta change it here, and then this is old. I'm gonna close some of these so I don't get confused. This one, schema. What does this file do? So in 1.5, that was around when I started using WordPress, back in the early 2000s. So this was like an option. These are the default options. So is this populate options? So this is like when you create new first before creating WordPress options and populating their default values. I've never really looked at this code, I don't think, or and I'm just interested in it because it's the first time I'm seeing it, so I'm interested. But I also want to understand it so that we can figure out like what the impact of changing these things is going to be. So anyway, there's an option called blacklist keys that defaults to blank, and it would have to be updated here as well. So maybe this note I'm getting here, we can say like, you know, this option is also set as a default here, you know, so change the name there. And this is where it's used. I'm gonna kind of save that for last because that's kind of the hard part maybe. WP includes comments. WP blacklist check. Okay, so here's the function, WP blacklist check. Now here's the thing too, like this is one of those terms where this is all related. So we can't like this, and yeah, this is all related. So I'm saving this. Like we started off with like, hey, we're changing the name of like the name and the ID of the text field. But if you change that, you have to change like the PHP variables used, and then those PHP variables are named based on, you know, this functionality. So you kind of like, this is a bundle of work here. Like we'd want this to be one PR. So in reality, like maybe this is like a better place to start in a sense, in that, hey, we have a function called blacklist check. And this is just like a subsection, like there is a function called, you know, blacklist check, blacklist check, which Does comment contain blacklisted? It checks if a comment contains blacklisted. Blocklisted. I'm gonna use when I'm like talking as myself. I'm gonna use mode. All right, contains blacklisted characters or words. Okay. So we can do like this is really like here. Oops. Okay, so yeah, it's like an HTML attributes. So yeah, and this is okay. So there's a hook here, which is so we if we change this, we'd have to deprecate the hook. So okay, I'm gonna write that too. I might start because like I'm gonna keep renumbering these unless I okay, cool. So yeah, there's also a hook named WP Blacklist Check. Let's link to it. So like for that, we have to deprecate or like change the name, change the docs, and keep it deprecated. Like, I mean, the whole idea between it, I mean, we could check like how many people are using this. I'm sure it's in use. It's from like the beginning of time in WordPress. So we would want to make sure that people using the old hook name, it continued to work, but they just got a deprecation notice. And then we would want to I'm getting lost. Need more coffee. So we definitely would want to like deprecate that hook. Oh, and I was thinking, yeah, potentially deprecate the function. Like I feel like the whole purpose of this function here is to, strip blocked words out of the comments, or actually no, like trash comments that have blocked words in them. But I could imagine that some kind of clever WordPress developers were like, oh, like if you're already maintaining a list of bad characters for comments, let's use that same list for something else. Like let's not allow you to use those words in your username, or allow you to use those words in BBPress forums or posts or something like that. So I mean, I'm making it up on the fly here, but I'm sure it feels like such a useful functionality of keeping track of like bad words that like someone is probably also using this for other purposes. And so like the whole function would probably have to be deprecated. So I guess I'll take a note of that. Like we would, or it's like we should check, if other plugins are calling the function directly, and assuming so, create a deprecated version of the function. Hope that reads well. Here's it, so we can like also check my autocomplete doesn't work on this one. Okay, yeah, we were gonna get here, I think. So in comment, we have the main function, and here's where this is a unit test. So we can look to that too. It's like here's a unit test that would, and maybe I'll make it like there is one unit test that uses the old function name. And it just uses the function. So like if we, oh no, it uses lots of stuff. Okay, so it's like the test itself has a name, and the function name there, and then it kind of is expecting the option. So I'm kind of leaving that for last. Like the option name is called blacklist key, so we're gonna want to like run a script to update the option. I don't know how often like WordPress does stuff like that. Yep. All right, so cool. I think for now we'll say like, hey, this unit test needs to be rewritten. I mean, actually, it's here's the thing. Like, all right, I don't know unit tests in PHP and WordPress very deeply. I think we need to do more of it for our own code in Paid Memberships Pro. So there might be something I'm missing about how unit tests work, but I'm pretty sure that we kind of just scrapped this. There's no dependency between this test potentially. Did someone extend the blacklist check unit test, or I don't think so. I think this is once we make all the other changes, which are pretty hard, we just scratch this test and make a new one with all the right terms. So I think we don't have to look into that too much. So I'm gonna say like after we make, I'm gonna talk positively, like we're actually gonna do the work and do this. It's like, this is the thing, the more I go on this, I'm like, man, phew, all right, I don't know. It's a lot of work. Okay, just to type it up, let alone actually do it, test it, and all that stuff. Okay, so after we make all the other changes, we should be able to, you know, rewrite this test to use the new term. Okay. Groovy. Okay. Oh, I'm just saying that. Okay. I want to see. Okay, so that's it, and then I guess we have to. This is kind of the. Oh wait, actually no, I lost this one. The formatting. I haven't looked at this yet. So maybe we'll get to that. We're still on this one. Okay. This is the blacklist check function. That's pretty straightforward. Is there other stuff in this file? I think so, for sure, because this is the comment, all the comment codes in here. Oh, so here we're using it. I kind of missed, hold on, I buzzed. Okay, so up here there's a comment. So like here, like okay, so here I'm gonna like in this I'm talking about this comment.php. Like I'm gonna say like maybe just for completeness here. It's almost like too much. The more stuff I mean, it's gonna be long to read. Like the more stuff I put here, the more people are gonna have to read through in the track ticket. So I'm wondering if I just say like in that file update, and maybe I'm gonna do that. Like I don't think I have to put like all the lines. People know how to control F. But I think if you've noticed like how I'm going through this really slowly is like we can't really make any assumptions about, you know, just being able to change things. But here perhaps it's kind of like I can just kind of bundle it all together so people don't have like more comments. So I'm gonna say like, you know, like okay, so it's like in comment what's it .php we would also then have to replace the use of blacklist in the code comments. And okay, so I'm gonna browse through. So and then on this line it's used. And I think here's, I mean, this is our code, WordPress. We just can change it. Like, hey, we changed the function name, we use it. And I think all these cases are in the function. So maybe I'll just link here and like it's used once here. Like, yeah, maybe I will. It's only 2. All right. I thought it would be more because I saw that 9, but I'm like, it's only 2. So I'm gonna say like, hey, change it in the comments here. In the comment here. I mean, this is my list of things to do when I actually get into the code. And when it's used here. Wait, that was not here. So let me figure out the formatting.php. People aren't chatting too much. There aren't that many people on. Hiya. Let me check Twitter. Did my link work? It worked. I thought there might be more people like interrupting me. It's good. This ain't bad. I mean, maybe this is a good for me. Like I thought about like recording myself working, but I thought it would distract me way too much and I wouldn't really be able to work. It definitely is giving me like draining a little energy that I know someone's watching me. I'm an introvert, but I don't know, maybe I'll do this some other times too. It's fun. Okay, so formatting. All right, we have this word. What is this doing? I don't know. What is this file? The main WordPress formatting API replaces common plain text characters with formatted entities. Returns given text with transformations of quotes and the smart quotes. Oh, we should just get rid of the whole file. Screw smart quotes. So don't use before to edit. Hook everything will break. Okay, cool. Cockney replace. I vaguely remember people using this as like a. Why do we like this is like a Easter egg in the code? You can. All right, I'm not even gonna get into that one now. Okay, so I'll save some energy. All right, so I'm figuring out what this format does, and then we'll figure out there's a place where there's only one line here. We also, we haven't even gotten to the term whitelist, which there's twice as many instances of as blacklist. Like, I talked about before they overlap, but we'll have to see it. So I think I'll get to that later. I think maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I guess I'm probably going to compile like 2 lists and then figure out where like the work is the same in both and merge them into one. Okay, so here we go. Blacklist keys, strip invalid text for column, option value, is WP error value, get the error message, explode. So I think the way that this is used, assuming we change this term everywhere else, we just have to change this here. And this is setting like the formatting rules for that text area. It's saying like, hey, like I think if you see in the comment, it says like 1 per line, an IP address or like a word. And this is turning that text area into like an array. Oh, it makes it unique and then puts it back together. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so I think we just need to change the term there. And there's not other things that kind of hook into this or expect that. Formatting rules for this option are here. Like we can change name there. Change the name there. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so on existing sites, this is stored in the database. So all this is the name of the option, and somewhere this gets like updated to the database. So I'm not sure how often WordPress does this, but like it would be like update. I mean, I'll write it here, right? Update WPDB options. No, like am I? Yeah, it's tough. Okay, nothing's easy. Okay, so update WPDB options set option name equal to blocklist keys, where option name equals blacklist keys. So it's like, we would want it to run a SQL query like this on update. I don't know if you've ever like updated WordPress, and when you first do it, it says like updating the database, or it's like click here to update the database. Like that's what's happening. you know, that's what's happening when you click that button to update the database. It's running things like this. Now, as I was writing this and I said nothing's easy, what I was thinking was, yeah, if there's this option is stored in the database, it has a name. The option name is the column, and it's called Blacklist Keys. Now we're going to change it to Blocklist Keys. But like this option, I don't know if any. I'm trying to think if other WordPress functionality like expects this key, or other plugins expect this key and like access it directly, or if they you know, like I don't know, I'm trying to imagine a scenario where like here's a list of options that something happens to, you know, that the option name itself might not only be stored in the option name column, it might be stored in the value column of another option. And I'm trying to think of a case where that happens, but it's the kind of thing that could happen for other options, and so we'd have to check. But we wouldn't want to like just automatically update those other fields. But here I'm going to take a note. It's kind of like if other plugins like were accessing this option directly, or you know, the option name is stored somewhere, you know, removing the for the old option might break. So potentially, I don't know. This is one where like I think people, the WordPress core team that is more involved in updates more often are like, oh, like hopefully they have a pattern for this. And they're like, no, like we just add it to this list and automatically gets updated and kind of handled. Actually, might even just leave this. What I'm thinking here, like I guess maybe I can wordsmith this before I post it to track. Like maybe I shouldn't edit myself. I'm already like a few pages. This is like potentially what I would post to track, and it's crazy, and we're like getting halfway there. So, but maybe I'm gonna write what I meant was like, you know, should we keep the old option? That's a bad idea too. I'm changing my mind. Keeping the old like option in the database might fix some things, but it's gonna cause more issues than it hurts, because things will go out of sync. So I don't like that. I think, hey, we update that, and there might be people using it where they're going to have to update their code too. It's definitely like figure it out here. Hey, Jonathan. Oh, I think that was your name on some of those other track tickets I looked like that. So I'm still in the kind of like just figuring out the scope of all the work that has to be done. So I got an hour and a half before I'm done, and then hopefully I might get to some coding. My plan too was I'm listing all the things that we might do, and there's a lot of like, oh, this is difficult because we have to work with like a third party, or we have to deprecate it. Hopefully at the end of this, I want to pick out the quote unquote easy ones and just like, oh, okay, here's a pull request. Like this should be a no-brainer. We can just accept this pull request. And I think I'm finding stuff is subtle, and I think like I'm sure Jordan and the others who fixed the front end probably, you know, kind of saw the magnitude of what's going on. But yeah, so hopefully there's some easy fixes I can do them, but I'll have like a list of things to do, and we can work on them together. And definitely if you're watching, like let me know if you notice anything. Cool. Okay, so I think we can run an update on the options table like that. And I don't know, maybe I'll just put a question here, like where other plugins, we could probably search for that. You know, accessing the option from the database directly. There are ways to kind of, you can add a filter and say, hey, if you're looking for, yeah, a filter for the option name, Ronald says there. Yeah, you could add a filter and say, hey, if you're looking for blacklist keys, like return blacklist keys. And again, I don't know if WordPress has done stuff like that in the past. I might search quickly. Yeah. Someone gave me that website where you can just search the plugins really quickly. Oh, here it is. All right, wpdirectory.net. So WP Blacklist Check. And here's all the plugins. This is what I was talking about. When we change this function name, here are all the plugins that are using that function. There's 60 of them here. So it kind of, it tells us like what this, if we just deleted that function, what would happen. And I think we're pretty sure we need to like add a deprecated version. But also what we can do is we can, man, and is this like link? Cool. Wow, how cool is that? You can see how they're using it, which I think is important because that'll answer some of those questions of like, are they, you know, you can kind of see the context of how they're using it. Like, are they accessing the database directly or at any times or anything like that? WPDirectory.net. Okay. Oh, here, look, yeah, let me put that link in my notes here. Yeah, it's like here though. Oh, this is actually the password check, right? Yeah. And I would rearrange these kind of, well, I don't know if I would. Like they're all kind of different. And actually maybe like once I have these notes, I can circle back with Jonathan and the others to be like, hey, should this be one ticket or two, or kind of how do we want to split this up? Here I say like other plugins. Boom, okay. Cool. All right. All right, we did that. Now we're moving on to page 2. Hopefully it's like one thing. No, okay. And we already looked at the schema. So we were looking at that for the blacklist keys. Theme.php. Okay, that's new. And formatting we looked at already. All right, so this I think is the last file that we found the word blacklist on. This might be like a really easy one. Is this just a comment? Cool. Jonathan says start with one ticket and we'll split off anything more difficult. Awesome. Remove theme support. Blacklist for internal registrations not used directly by theme. Yeah, I think this is an easy one. You just redirect it. Just reword this comment. We should do it now. So I would say like remove, whatever, wait, no, return false. All right, remove theme support. It was like, we say like, we don't allow these internal registrations not used directly by theme. I don't know what that means. Internal registration is not used directly by the themes. Like, oh, okay, I get it. Like when you're building a theme, you say like add theme support. And I guess this is saying like editor style widgets and menus are not ones that you would never add theme support for them. Although, like, I don't know, let me look. And then let me look at like a core one too. We might be adding 2020 anyway. Probably in here they say like add theme support, add theme support. Okay. I mean, the 2220 authors are pretty smart. Let me see if in our theme. Comment list. Which one? Editor style widgets and menus. Okay. I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense. I'm sitting here thinking like, I can totally see someone like, oh, add support for menus in my theme. Add support for widgets. But I guess none of the documentation recommends that or anything like that. So, okay, so we need to rename this. So this is really saying like, when you're, I mean, I don't know, like, we don't allow people to remove support for these features. And I guess it's important here. It's like theme. These are features that themes wouldn't register themselves. You want to fight this like well, hey, spending the time to figure out how to word things properly, right, would help us avoid these situations we're in. But I'm really trying to figure out how to how to convey what this line is doing. But also kind of keep it to one line, right? If we make it remove the word black, we just say blocklist for internal registration. It's not used directly by themes. And maybe I was getting like, so when I first looked at this, I was like, we can just change the comment. It's not functional. But now I'm like, we don't even have to like this, we don't have to even use the word blocklist. Like, what is this doing? We're like keeping, like, we're not really maintaining this list anywhere. We're just like saying like, hey, these features are for internal registration, not used directly by theme. So don't allow people to remove them. All right, let me take a note. I don't know if I'm overthinking it. What letter did we get up to? We're on EF. Okay. So comment in theme.php. Oh, let me shoot. I want to do this on the develop branch. Here we go. Here we go. We can change. Yeah, I'll think about it later. I guess when we get there. Okay. Blacklist to blocklist or reword comment in general to avoid it. Okay. Cool. That, I think, is all the blacklist cases. And then we have whitelist. And I'm going to switch to the WordPress develop branch or repository. Wait. Look at that. Wait, hold on. Why is that? The 24 and there's 34 on here. Maybe the develop repository includes some other stuff that the other one does. It probably includes like uncompiled code and unmerged code and full source full repositories for included libraries and stuff, and maybe that's why more are showing up. Anyway, it makes me think that we might not be done on Blacklist yet, because yeah, there's a little bit more. Okay, so I just look. Okay, so when I search here for Blacklist, there's 13 here, there's 17 here, so there's more here. And like, what is the unit? Oh, the test. We saw the test before. Maybe the tests aren't included in here. Okay. So there's a unit test. Oh, and here's another test. Yeah, but these are real files that are used by the WordPress team, and they need to be updated. The tests need definitely the tests need to be updated. So I was in our password strength section. We want to talk about this test. Change the method of variable names. Check the variable plugins. Should need change. Keep a version of old methods deprecated, and then change the use of this unit test. Yeah, we could look at it really quick. This is the include library. We looked at those. We looked at these. We looked at that one. Attachments. Oh, that's a test. Huh. Okay. This is different. Wait, oh, this is a test too. Wait, this looks familiar, but I don't remember talking about it. User profile that just, or did we? Oh no, we did maybe here. User, yeah. Featured content. That one's new. 2014. Oh, is 2014 included in this, but not in the other WordPress repo? I don't know. I mean, this is interesting to me. No, it is. So I was wonder why. Why doesn't 2014 featured content? Featured content. Why didn't this show come up in our other list? Or maybe I just missed it. Maybe I probably just went past it. Okay. Comments, we look theme, formatting. Okay. So these are the 4 new files that I didn't get to yet. Okay. Let's see what we got here. This is the password strength meter test. I'm looking at that word blacklist, and let's see like how it's going to be used here. Blacklisted words in the password should be penalized. So when this is, yeah, so when we change it, we can just change that, and then change that. I think, yeah, so after, okay, I mean, this is almost always the case. I don't know what I'm expecting to find in the test, to be honest, when I'm looking at them that close, but I guess it's kind of like the other case of the test. We like if we do all the changes before, we just have to change the word in the test, and the test work. And I guess maybe if something clever was happening in the test, we do that. And again, like if we add deprecated methods, I don't know if we need to like add a test of the deprecation to the unit tests. It might be a good idea as well. It definitely should be tested. And honestly, like I haven't contributed to WordPress core when unit tests were really required, or a couple times I have recently, like someone else was writing the test for me. But we'll get to that. So, okay, this is under like the password. So it's like change the use in this unit test. Okay, got it. Oh, we already had that. Okay, all right, I just put that there. Okay, cool. Here's the attachments. This is another unit test. I guess this also could give me hints to like other places, or because this isn't related to the comment blacklist or the other blacklist that we were looking at. This looks like, actually, like, what is this? Okay, upload Mimes, array this, blacklist JPEG contents. What is that? What's a function? Okay, okay. So this is a public function of the test. So I think like this is almost like this is a self-contained. Oh, like the upload, there's a filter for the upload. That's odd that let me look at the upload Mimes filter. Maybe someone like yeah. WordPress upload Mimes. And maybe so Mimes, the array. Mime types keyed user. Oh, let me go back to this. So we're testing upload Mimes test filter. So okay, what I'm thinking here is like, and this is jogging my memory, like, oh, like when you upload a file, there's a filter to make sure you don't upload certain file types. And I forget by default, like they don't want you uploading .exe files or something like that. And so you can filter that to say like, no, like allow whatever, you know, doc files, Word doc files, I don't mind, or something like that. Or you can, you know, say, hey, don't even allow them to upload JPEGs, which I'm pretty sure that's what this is doing. So, or no, it unsets it. So JPEG is in the list of types you're allowing, and this function will unset some things and then try to upload, and it should like throw an error potentially, depending on, are we uploading like a JPEG? Yeah. So this test here is testing the Mime type filter on uploads. So it finds this test image. It then adds the filter that says, hey, don't filter JPEGs. So actually it shouldn't throw an error. So this is saying unset, like don't filter JPEGs. And then it uploads, so it should work, and then it removes the filter. And assert not empty uploader. No, it's expecting error. Maybe my brain is wait. Maybe my brain is fried. It's getting harder for me to figure out code. All right, it uploads the test image, and then asserts there's assert false error. It looks for an error. I mean, it's possible the test is wrong too. Or I'm just having trouble. Okay, this makes sense. Okay, and on JPEGs aren't blocked by default. Where is it? Is there an option for this? Media. Maybe it's just a filter. I'm trying to remember how the. Oh, assert false error. So that means there's no error. Okay, it tries to upload. There shouldn't be an error. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Or maybe... So it tries to upload. There shouldn't be an error. Then it adds a filter. Says, hey... And let's look at the function here. So the upload Mimes filter, the first parameter, this is the callback. It has Mimes, which is an array of Mime types, keyed by file extension. Okay, and then, so this is an array of file types, and this says, actually, to be honest, this, and maybe this is where I'm getting confused, this format where you're passing in, oh, because these are, this makes me want to like dig in what this is. It's not like one extension, like the JPEG, there's like 3 possible extensions for JPEG. So it's like key, like the key for the JPEG Mime type is JPG, JPEG, JPE. But we're unsetting it. So we're saying, oh, so maybe this is an allow list. I'm probably just getting thrown by the name of this function. Oh, we have whitelist here too. So this is really, it's not saying black, all right, it's saying like, hey, wait, hold on. Don't allow, okay, I'm getting confused here. Okay, so yeah, the array that gets passed into this filter is all of the Mime types, the different file types that are allowed to be uploaded. And by default, JPEG is allowed. So it tries to upload a JPEG, there's no error. Then it says, hey, here's a callback that removes JPEG as an allowed Mime type. So then it tries to upload and it should throw an error. Got it. I get what this is testing. So honestly, in this test, like the use of the word whitelist and blacklist is only in this test. Now, also like why I slowed down here, I was like, oh yeah, like we're filtering Mime types. Like how comes the code that filters Mime types didn't show up when I was searching for blacklist and whitelist, especially considering like those are the terms the test uses. But probably like that code that filters Mime types is just written with different language, which is pretty good. Or like someone at some point in the past, changed it. So it's using language like filter and add, remove, and stuff like that, or block. So, all right, so I get it. So it's just, and actually, like, and this is a case too. Like, I mean, I don't know, but these terms aren't only non-inclusive. In this case, I think they're confusing. Like, I don't know, my brain's a little fried now from looking at a bunch of different code doing different things, but it's kind of we could do a better job just kind of making these. I think if we rename these, it would make more sense. And I'm pretty sure, again, here, like, I don't know the dependency between tests, but I'm pretty sure this is all self-contained. So if we just change all these variables, it's good. So this would be like just another FG. I'm testing my alphabet skills. Okay, so this test, you know, this unit test for attachments uses the terms blacklist and whitelist in its test of the Mime type filter for uploads. It's like we can change those terms without breaking. Could potentially, since, or it's like, here's like, this is the thing that I stopped, and like maybe it's worth pointing out too for other people who read this, like the Mime type filter itself, we can look to it, like, doesn't use block, you know, block, black, white, safe language anyway. So we can, you know, I don't know. You can probably, you know, rename things to make the test even clearer. I guess I won't get to that now, you know, again, like, okay, but that'll be something I do. Okay. EFGH, what's next, dude? Getting calls. I've never made a 3-hour YouTube video before. We'll see how this works. All right. Got that one. Got that one. Wait, did we shoot? Hold on, let me go back here. Formatting theme. Oh no. I think I closed the tab I wanted to look at. That was the 20, yeah, that's right. That was the 2014 featured content. And this includes schema. I'm pretty sure we didn't. This option is on a blacklist and should never exist. All right, what is it? What are we talking about here? Use quick tags. So we, oh, what does this mean? I don't get blamed much, but I was like, oh, like we can kind of find like who potentially like wrote that comment. And to be honest, I was trying to avoid it. Like, I don't want to call people out for this code we're looking at, but I was just curious. I thought it might help me if I saw the names of the commits, like what the intention was whenever this code was last looked at. And I guess I should look more like just in this file, like what's even, all right, what's happening here? This is the include schema. This is, I'm pretty sure this is different from the other schema file we were looking at, which was like the default options, or maybe it's not. No, this is, oh, this is a test. Shoot. Okay, here's a test. That's why it's named different. Okay, include schema. Okay, it was called schema.php. This is like the, you name the file of your test based on like the path to get to it. Okay, so this is like test related to the schema stuff. Okay, let's find what. Okay, this is like, okay, so this is kind of a case where it's just a comment, and it's I might be just, I mean, this is a quickie. Like this option is on a blacklist. Like which one is on a blacklist or? Man, it's like, it's my curiosity of like what this means, but in reality, like we can just change the word and like, hey, we did it. But it's also kind of like, do we even, this is that same case as Aaron, like, is this even like the right concept of like a list of things that are blocked to use here? Or like there's a reason there's a comment here, and I think these should be obsolete. Like this is in the context of a test. So data populate options. Oh, or is this like, let me see here, hold on. This is the values for the options. if you've never done unit tests, like this format of just a bunch of nested arrays is really confusing. I mean, even if you do, I'll try to like skim through it. But so, I mean, the comments are important here. It's basically should be saying like, this is what we're testing. And I guess this is testing the defaults, and then like testing, and then script text equals 1. Script text equals 1. Excuse me. So, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what this is actually trying to test and how it works. Like, I'm just gonna make note, I guess, for now. This unit test for include/schema PHP blocklist comment. We can change that to blocklist, or someone who understands what is being tested can probably rewrite to be more clear. Okay. Cool. Got that one. Okay, here, 2014. We missed this one earlier. Featured content. We respect post IDs already in the blacklist. Pre-get posts. Okay. Exclude featured posts from the homepage. Blog query. Posts not in. Already know. So I mean this, yeah. This can be like already being excluded. So this is filtering the pre-get posts. Like when you run a query for posts in WordPress, you can hook into pre-get posts. So like before I get the post, let's like massage the query in a way that we want so that it, we get different terms. And there's a property called post not in, which is used to exclude posts. So or no. Yeah. So it's like this is usually like an array of IDs. So it's like, hey, get me posts that are not in this array of posts. And since we're filtering, we're gonna potentially post. We're adding some posts, the featured posts. So we're making sure the featured posts don't show up in like something else, from the homepage, because they probably get shown like above in some section. So we're adding the featured post to the post not in, but if someone else has filtered this and said also don't show these posts, we want to make sure we don't forget that. So I think this is like a pretty quick HI. But again, like the themes, I have to find out if like the included themes are maintained in like a different repository. Or if we do a pull request here, it's going to work. So, okay, so like this, and this is just a comment. The 2014 theme. Hey there. Has the word blacklist in the comment. There's the link, and then like we can change this. Like I would just, we need to respect post IDs already being excluded, is one way, or like already in the array. So it's like we could say already being excluded. Like exclude is the language they use the language above, already being excluded, or like I'm thinking like, do you say like by other things that feel already being excluded, or you could say already in the array, or already in the array. Okay, that works. Okay. Okay. I think we've gotten through the blacklist words. occurrences, and we have the whitelist ones. So, all right, we got notes. Yeah, I think we're gonna go through and like some of these. Yeah, what was I thinking? Okay, I thought I'd have like 2 lists, but really, I think as I'm going through those, if it's something that we've talked about before, I'm gonna just update that section, like, and say like, I think that makes sense. But maybe we'll see. Let's go with that assumption. So I'm gonna go through and we'll see like where we take these notes. But okay, we were already in this options.php. But you know what? This is different things. That's kind of yeah, that's why. So the word whitelist and blacklist appears in this file. I'm pretty sure. Blacklist. But yeah, they're in different contexts. So the blacklist, yeah. So maybe it does make sense to just do them differently because, yeah, it does. So we were this blacklist keys option. There was a lot of work following this around WordPress and all the places it's used to make sure that we change it everywhere. But it's kind of just a coincidence that, and I mean, I have to look like what is the context of calling this array whitelist options. Oh, I get it. Okay, so this is an allow list. Like this is when you, yeah. We do this in PM Pro also. So this file is processing like the options page. You have a form with a bunch of options. You submit you submit all that data to the server, and then the server updates the options. So you don't want people to be able to like, savvy hackers are going to go on your discussions tab and they're going to like inspect the code and they're going to insert their own field called, paid memberships per license key. And when they submit this field, like this WordPress code is just looping through arrays and updating options. We want to make sure that we don't update other options that aren't shown on this page. So hopefully that explains to people watching like what's going on here and helps me talk through it to understand what this array is doing. So when you update options, and this is broken down by I guess the different views of the options, like, or I don't know what actually I don't know if you use the right word they're using there, but the different subpages under settings. So these are the general settings, the discussion settings, blah blah blah. And so we're saying, hey, like these are the only options that can get updated on that page. Okay, now that we said that, like, does it make sense to call this whitelist? And is this like used? How is this used? And is it? Oh, look at this. Wait, comment whitelist. Maybe we'll get to that. Whitelist options. So I think there's a filter. Yeah. Yeah, before we ran into the filter, I was like, this is just a variable that we're using in this code. And it's, like, you could call it safe list options. I'm curious, like, what I've called it in cases I've done it. Like, probably safe list. Maybe I'll look on screen. Where do we do that? I don't remember. We do it a lot in, like, reports. Like, you don't want, you say people, like, order by, and you want to update the SQL. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I have some work on my own code to be called something on my list. No, I don't know. I forgot to call it. I was kind of searching in my code. In general, I was working under your assumption that like whitelist should become safe list. That's like a pretty decent term. And some people use allow list. But again, I think it's worth like, hey, if we're taking the time to change it, like what's the most clear thing here? This is a list of like the allowed list of options to change. Safe. I think safe list makes sense. It's kind of the concept of like a list. So, and especially because there's a filter here. Okay, so let me just, yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's go back to my notes. HIJ. Okay, so the, cool. filter. Let me link to the file, and let me link to the filter. Filter of the same name, whitelist. Which makes sense. If you add an option to the options page, you're going to have to like add it into the safe list. Here. So it's like we can change that to safe list options. And then we would need to, you know, add a deprecated filter for the old use. It also, like, I'm going to look. This is probably, and I mean, this is the first page we're looking at for like whitelist. I bet this, like, there's other files in WordPress core that probably use that filter, potentially, or something. There's definitely plugins that use it, so you need to add a deprecated filter for the old use and like update options, you know. I mean documentation. Okay. So I'm gonna keep exploring here. Okay, I mean I didn't even look at this whole file, but I'm going to look at other files specifically, like if they're using that filter, like while we're looking at it too. All right, if we're on the page, and then this is like a translators. Options page not found in the options file. Oh, I mean, this is like an error that's shown if you, yeah, that's weird. When would this happen? This would happen like update equals action. It's like an error message. I mean, I guess I'll take a note here. Because it's translated error message. I actually don't. I can't imagine like how you get to this error. If you use the filter and like add like an options page that doesn't exist in the process of trying to check if the options are on that safe list, it's gonna like bail and say like, wait, you used a filter to run. Error message here. Okay, so and then this is okay. We're back to this top. Oh, and the comment whitelist. We didn't run into that when we were looking at the other comment related code, so we'll get to that. But I'm going to look at, okay, so this whitelist options. That was the name of the filter, right? Whitelist options. I want to see if like where that specifically shows up. Oops, I think I accidentally searched outside of WordPress. Okay, so this is the one we were just looking at, but here's includes plugin, and here, so I kind of guessed, yeah, that we would like, there's a couple places. This update option filter. Okay, refreshes the value of the options whitelist available via the whitelist options hook. Refreshes. Okay, option update filter. Global new whitelist option. Oh, we have a global. Thanks. Okay, so if is array new whitelist options, options equals add option whitelist. New whitelist options. Cool. I guess that probably just like checks if it's already there. Wait. There's a global called new whitelist options and a global called whitelist options. And I just remind everyone this is like WordPress 2.7, which was a long, long time ago. I didn't have any children, I don't think. Like probably over 10 years ago. We were all learning the code. It was a good time. So, yeah, all right. Yeah, wow. Okay. So these functions, yeah, I'm doing a lot of thinking without narrating, but these functions we'd want to check if any plugins are using them directly. And then these globals, if any plugins are using them directly. I would hope not. Like, there's pretty good wrapper I mean, that's kind of like dated looking the code is. Like the you know, these functions exist, so people should. And actually, I mean, these functions also just support the filter. If people are using the filter, it, yeah, like the levels of abstraction of like this, the concept of like safe list for the options. All right, so yeah, we remove option whitelist. Let me see. I mean, might as well. And now I'm just thinking like, how can I go through it? It feels like a lot of these like whitelist terms might kind of, you know, cross over with each other. And so I'm in my mind trying to think about like the right order to tackle them in. Okay, so, but I think, all right, I'm here. So we'll, I think this is separate. So hold on, what was I talking about? I was talking about before the whitelist options, right? Okay, and then we say, you know, there's a filter. What places are using that filter? I think this is, it's kind of related, but this is going to be like its own thing, right? Is in includes WP admin includes. There are a number of related functions that have the word whitelist on them. Whitelist. So we have, you know, add option whitelist and remove option whitelist. Okay. Maybe not a number. Are these the only functions with names in them, right? So it's like whitelist. Yeah. Those are the only functions. Oh, look at this. They're like even, sorry. There's like a little comment there. Okay. Saying these are the whitelist functions. Okay. A couple of related functions that have whitelist in them, right? So there, boom. And maybe I'll just, like, for easy reference here, add a whitelist option. And remove option whitelist. And this is something different. So, and then there's also this option update filter, you know. Also, option update filter calls those functions. There are globals. Yeah. And these are like new things we can search and see like in the code. I'm seeing two. So there's the new and there's whitelist. There are two global variables. New whitelist options. So it's like whitelist options and new whitelist options. Cool. What else is going on here? So, all right, cool. So imagine we, I keep saying cool. I'm calming myself down. I'm like, this is, okay, so we're here. Yeah, so if we change the names of these functions, we likely have to deprecate them. Like option update filter. This is, okay, so this is just, this is probably just used with that whitelist options callback. And I should probably just mention that, like, I think, you know, is a callback for the whitelist options, you know, filter. Calls those functions. Okay. So I mean, if we change all these, we like, where's my WP directory search? Like, hey, does anyone call these directly? Wait. Oh, is this someone else search this? Like people are playing along at home? Yeah, 49 extensions. Let's look at this big guy. How does SG Optimizer do it? See you wrong. New whitelist options equals true. What is it doing? Globals, protected globals. What is this? Oh, the coding standards. Wait, what? What is SG Optimizer? What is it? SiteGround. Yeah. Fund? Okay. So, yeah. Oh, okay. So it's, yeah, I mean, oh, so this is the thing too. All right. Yeah, I didn't even think of like code sniffers. So like earlier when we looked at one of the options, like probably the blacklist keys option, which might be in the same file potentially. It might not actually. Oh, this is like global variables. So yeah, so you know what this is doing probably is this is a WordPress coding standards sniffer of some sort, and it's like, hey, does your code use a global variable that's being used by WordPress or some kind of related library, or otherwise like we don't want to. So this new whitelist options and whitelist options is also like it's a global variable. So the code sniffer, will no longer protect whatever new variable we choose, but I mean, so the sniffers will have to be updated. Like, I don't know, I didn't even think about that. That like that's like a class of plugin that is it related to some of the stuff we're doing that will have to be updated. It won't break it. I mean, it won't break it. At least it just like, hey, they should know. What is like the IPGeo global? Oh, and so this is something that happens too. Okay, so despite the fact that like we have functions, like there's a filter to add options. There's also like a function called add whitelist options, and people, and I'm guilty of this as well in other cases, will just find the global and add the variable to the global instead of using the related functions, and that might be what's happening in some cases. Or like they think it's, or like, oh, maybe what is scripts and styles doing? Like if you're reading the global variable for some reason, I don't know. I'm curious what this use is. Take action, settings page. Outputs to admin page, calls to settings, register with the settings API. Oh, well, this is clever. I wonder how many people do this. So they put their options into the safe list, and then when they generate their options, or when they update them, they loop through the WordPress global safe list. Hey, that's clever. And if a lot of people do that, there might be like a tutorial somewhere online that says, hey, here's like a real easy way to update your options. Don't, Johnson's guilty. Don't, like if you have to maintain an array of options anyway, and then you have to put them in the global safe list, like, like why have two arrays? Just have one and then loop through it. Man, you're saving, some memory space and stuff. And I'm looking at these. So what is this doing? Okay, register setting. Override is okay. What did is this a way to tell the sniffer to back off on a line? That's cool. I didn't even know. I don't know what's going on. So is the override really okay? Because now we're in a situation where we're talking about breaking your code. I think there's some similar. So it's like if you're in multi-site, it's just adding the options. really sure what's going on there. Do we need to know? WooCommerce conversion tracking sounds interesting. And this, oh, just it bundles the sniffer, the same sniffer. Main WP. I mean, that's a class. Okay, so yeah. Updated option. Oh, so after you update an option, let's find the safe list. We merge them, but also with your permalink options, network options. Okay, so we're taking all the options that are already in the safe list, and then we apparently like add in our own class connector settings. What is main child reports? Then we go through the options, set a context. Okay, yep, the options. It's like, I don't know if you remember the whitelist options array has keys that are like so I was like, I don't know if it's called a view or something. Here it's called a context, and that might be like the official WordPress language too. Like that's like the group of options for the page, and then that array has all the options on that page. Changed options. Oh, and now it's checking which options were changed, and okay. So yeah, again, I'm like going down a rabbit hole again, and it's like this is me like being curious, but then also like I feel like this is giving me the information to kind of make decisions about how to change these. Okay, but what is it doing? Okay, so it's figuring out which options were changed. It creates an array of changed options, and then is option group value. What value is passed? Okay, value. Got it. It might help to know what main WP child report says. Connectors. Changed options right. This log. Oh, okay, so placeholder refers to a setting name, language. Setting was updated. Somehow, okay. It seems like it's logging which options get updated, so, or something. Yeah. So, I mean, one result of this is, I'm trying to find that link again. Here, okay. These are the quote-unquote whitelist functions. These are actually like the functions related to like maintaining the safe list of options that should be allowed to be updated, you know, in the WordPress dashboard when you submit a form. And so there's a update. So this is the filter whenever an option is updated. If is array new whitelist option update filter. No, I'm sorry. This filter is on that whitelist options filter. I'm pretty sure actually. Well, it just says see whitelist options filter. I mean, I don't know where that gets set up. Like where like you would imagine there'd be like a little like add filter, whitelist options, comma option update filter. So I don't know where that gets updated, but somewhere. So what does it say? So this is the new whitelist options. If is array, then options equals add. So when you use the man, this is again like, let me take a sip of coffee here. One thing I was going to say anyway is that there's an add options whitelist. There's a remove options whitelist. There's no function called like get options whitelist. You know, like there's no, and this is again like, hey, Mike, I'm changing this in my code too. When you're just like using a global variable, you're like, so these functions are just like building a global variable, and then it's expected, hey, when you want to use the global variable, just use the global variable. And like, why is that a problem? In a lot of cases it isn't. In this case, where like you want to change the name of the variable, instead of changing one function, you have to change, which you can kind of more easily deprecate. You have to change like the global variable name. So that's difficult. This also comes up in my own code, I think, when, like a lot of times I'm saving settings in a global variable, and then I change my mind and say, no, let's save the settings in the database. And so now your get settings option, like if you had a function called get settings, you'd have one place to say, look up the global variable or look in the database, or you can filter it and get your settings from somewhere else. Whereas if you just use the global, like the global's expected. So then what you have to do is it's like a bigger change process of like, now I create a get, like I think we might need like a get, if we end up changing this, which I said I'd be like positive in my language about that. I'd say like when we change this, we probably want to build like a wrapper for the global called like get safe options or something like that. And then initially it might just load the global and return the global. But eventually, you know, like those options could still be saved in a global variable, but it'd be one place. But man, it's a bigger, like, all right, so that's one question. Another one is like, what is this? How does this option update filter function even work? Like it kind of, man, it ties in my brain in knots a little bit. So the whitelist options is like, it's a list of options that are okay. That's what's passed in. So actually, I guess that's the question is like, what sets this new whitelist? So anytime someone should have called add option whitelist, it just wait, no, this just puts it right into whitelist options. How does new whitelist options get set? Like, what is this even? So this is taking the global new whitelist options and putting it into. Yeah. Okay. So that's the hidden piece for me. That's where you're like, where is this used? Like, what is that? Like, there's a function to, and it might just be some other kind of level of deprecation. Like this code was reworked at some point, maybe. All right. Maybe when you register a setting. Okay. Did we look? I guess we didn't look at this yet. Maybe register setting. This is so. I mean. Register, so we've been talking about like the levels of abstraction around like keeping track of which options are okay to update. Like the register setting is the API function call that I think most people will, this is kind of like how you're supposed to interact with this stuff through the register setting function. So let's look at how that did. It creates a global called new whitelist options, and then does it like add your setting to it? It adds your setting to it. So then I gotcha. So okay, all right. If you're adding settings for your plugin or something like that, you say register setting, and then you do a bunch of other stuff to make that work. That's going to add your setting into this global array, and then this this function here, this callback, is going to fire like before WordPress is checking if the options are allowed. You might have filtered it yourself somehow, like using that filter. But if not, if you just called add setting, it'll be in this global. And then we'll add them all at once. So anything added through register settings gets added here. And you know what? Like, am I reading fast? Does this say that? Like, this could probably say that. Like, it's kind of only used in one place. So it's like refreshes divide the options whitelist available via the whitelist option. So it's kind of C, so it says C, the whitelist options filter. It's also kind of like this is used, the new whitelist options global is used by it seems in the core WordPress code, it's only used by register setting. So we could say like C, you know, register setting. Gotcha. You know what's interesting too? I don't know if like I take a step back. It's like the idea behind doing this is so that, you know, kind of bluntly, is that if you're a Black developer, you're not forced to interact with the word blacklist or whitelist. Or kind of anyone, I guess, but particularly. And so I guess I was just thinking now that like with stuff of this nature where the there's a database, and then there's like global variables, and there's functions that help those global variables, and then there's a filter to set that, and then there's an API to add settings. And we're looking at this code that was coded in 2009 or whatever. No one should really see this code ever, like unless you're looking for it, like I am today. Like no one, like I don't know. I guess although like when you do this search, like hey, it came up in, it's coming up in like 108 plugins. So yeah, I mean it's worth going down, but so it's definitely worth like this work I'm doing. I'm happy with like we're cataloging like all the areas this comes up and what the next steps are. So I think it's useful, and we're going to be able to move this. But then when you start thinking about what to change, yeah, I think it makes sense to like get rid of the word completely, and it shouldn't show up in a search. Like that should be the goal. But definitely there could be phases to it, and in particular, if there's like a kind of a global variable that's masked around, you know, it should never really be seen. Is it kind of, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a noise? I think it does in this case, but I don't know. It's something to think about. Kind of, I don't know. I just had that thought, so I shared it. Like, yeah, like besides scrubbing these words, like this code kind of does something and almost doesn't really have to be used again. But also, like I said earlier, you know, people look to this code for examples, and so both like, you know, making your language inclusive, and then also potentially like using modern practices and stuff, like we'll just keep this code from like being perpetuated. All right. What do we do about it? What were we writing? All right. So we're talking about the includes plugin. We have these whitelist functions. I guess I should note like this is the one place that the new whitelist options is. The new whitelist options global seems to only be used by the register setting function. But it's also right. The new whitelist options. Oh, that was the one here. Like it showed up in 108 plugins. It's weird, like the new whitelist options. Like the whitelist options, that's like, hey, that's the big list of all options. But the new whitelist options is kind of like, these are settings that were registered, but not the. It's like is that like another way to see like which settings were registered? There's not like a global of like registered settings. And actually, if in the core WordPress, sorry, I'm clicking around tabs randomly. Yeah, if in the core WordPress, this is the only place. Maybe I gotta do a better search. Is this the only place that showed up? Then this really is like registered settings. That's what this variable really is. Oh wait, what is this one then? WP registered settings. Man, wait, if these are both, I bet it's just like a different format, right? Hold on. Okay. You say register settings, option name equals args. New whitelist options, option group. Oh, because this has to keep the option group. Okay. Is it one of the args though? Is the group in the arg? What are the args? This, I mean, it's the arguments for the setting. It's probably not. But the group is one of the args maybe? We might be able to get really clever to kind of, well, no. Group, yeah, the args is a group. Okay. So if you, yeah, I'm getting towards the end of when I wanted to stop, and I still have, this is, you know, the first couple instances of whitelist. So maybe like I need to kind of wrap this up and hand off. And I get like, part of this exercise was to show like how difficult this work actually is. So I think we've done that. But maybe I get to get into some code because it excites me in a sense to say that, sorry, this function here, Okay. I'm pretty sure. We don't need this global new whitelist options. We can just load the register settings option. Assuming this doesn't like get unset or something like that. We can, the same data is in both of these globals. And this only gets run once. So yeah, I don't even think that the performance hit would be minor, and it's probably on a net benefit to like avoid, you know, building this option, this array maybe. So what I'm thinking is if we only had register settings in this function, you would get the registered settings and then loop through the settings and put them into groups and then add them based on the group. And you would just update this code to do that, and it would still work. And that would remove the need for this global, I think. So it's, yeah, these are the two files. It only shows up there and it only shows up here. Oh wait, a couple places. So, oh, unregister. I mean, same thing, we just don't have to unregister. So maybe in 20 minutes, I'm gonna do a patch that gets rid of like new whitelist options. Now, again, like we, you know, it has to be like the analysis of like who's using that global and like what does it mean that we get rid of it is like one thing. And then also here, we're getting rid of new whitelist options. Like I just thought of a clever way to do that, which is really good. Let's get rid of that global. We don't need it. Like we still have a global called whitelist options. So that's the bigger task, right? And then I think this all hooks on the, or this all depends on the, you know, this WP registered settings. Does it never gets, it doesn't like kind of, no, I mean, I don't think it ever gets cleaned up in a sense. Yeah, I'm gonna assume no. I mean, we would want to do a better check. Oh, you know what? Like we got 20 minutes. I'm not, oh, it's funny. I've been looking through code. I haven't submitted a track ticket. That was something I wanted to show. I haven't like actually like I have a development environment here, but I didn't link it to Git in a way. So that's something we need to kind of show. And maybe it's like, okay, maybe there's like a second episode of this where where I, you know, I forget exactly where local by flywheel puts this stuff. Okay, where I do some more parts of this, you know. I think it's useful, like this little like archaeology of going through the code and figuring out where it is, and we only did that, but it's interesting also, like I thought, to be able to showcase, you know, how to like create a patch and stuff like that. So maybe I'll be back soon. Okay, or maybe we can kind of do it really quickly here. So local by I used local by flywheel. I created a dev environment, and then it just installs the latest version of WordPress, which is like the latest, not the like development version. It's the latest, you know, in you know, like the version off like WordPress.org/download, or I'm not exactly sure how Flywheel figures it out. You know, it's 5.4.2 specifically. So what I want to do is like create a Git repository for this instance of WordPress that's linked to that WordPress develop branch. So let me open that generally. Yeah. And I'm gonna grab like the Git URL to clone. Check out with SVN. I don't. Okay. Anyway, interesting. Maybe this like knows it's like mirrored. Oh, cool. GitHub is so clever. Okay. So this is just mirrored with another SVN repository. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to like back up the config file and then delete everything and then clone this repository into this directory. So I'm going to just move wp-config.php like up one folder just temporarily. And then I think there's nothing else I want to save. I think I can delete everything else. Be very careful when you do this. I haven't done any work. It's just a standard install of WordPress. And now I should be able to say git clone this, and I put a dot here to say like into this directory, not like somewhere else. Like otherwise it would like create a directory called WordPress or something like that and put it in. And this is going to download. Oh, you know what? Let me. Oh, hold on. Wait. There's a source. I didn't realize. I kind of goofed. Yeah, there's like so this repository has kind of all these the tests and tools, a bunch of configuration files like outside of what's actually built in the WordPress source. Like this is what we want in the root of our web folder. So maybe does Flywheel let me change the root? Or maybe I had to, yeah. Oh, site path. Did I have to like set this up as like a custom site to begin with? And maybe it lets me do, if I stop the site, it lets me change some things too. Oh, you know, well, I think I can do it manually. Okay, hold on. So, all right, that's done. Now I want to move my config file back. Wait, where'd it go? Shoot, where is it? Okay, why did my autocomplete? I probably didn't put WP dash into public /source or src. Wait, right? Hold on. Yeah. Okay. I'm on Windows and like the autocomplete is not working like I expected to. Public /src. Okay, so now this is what I want to be the root, but it's not. So if I go back to my site, it's going to break because it's like, hey, and if I go like source / it might work, but it's going to get confused because I'm logged in somewhere else and it doesn't think the site name has a src in it. But I think I can change the config. So this was like advanced local by Flywheel use here. Oops, I don't have nano. Okay, yeah, what do I have? I think I'm on, I think that I'm on Linux here. Did it open? Save my, okay. This is the Nginx configuration, which is blank. What happened there? No, it's taking a while to load. Oh, it's a directory with everything. Okay. I use Apache on my own servers, so I might be confused by this, but I'm pretty sure there's some kind of like where's my site type thing. Ooh, Jason doesn't know how to do this. Huh. Where's this stuff? WordPress single. Try files URI index. Rewrite WP admin. Host URI current. Wow, I didn't realize always like the configuration for like a flywheel thing was so complicated. I feel like I've changed these before, but maybe I was doing something else. Am I looking in the wrong place here? Oh, you know what though? You know what I've done? Like, I let Flywheel build the site when it started. I use Apache on my own servers, and then I'm pretty sure you can like allow you can tell Flywheel to use Apache when it sets up the site. And so in the past, I've changed like Apache configuration, which I'm more comfortable with. I think that's what we need to do. I hope I can just figure it out though. I don't know if there's any other clever way to like create the repo so that it's looking like it has that folder source. Flywheel wants to call it public. So there's not really, thank you for the coffee. There's not really a way to do that. Yeah. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna go through it one more time. It has to be like, just like, here's the site. Or maybe I should like Google that. Flywheel, change, nginx, what do we call this? That's like the web server root directory. Location. Yeah. Location. PHP. Yeah. Rewrite. I should look for the word rewrite. No, is that in here? That doesn't seem like it being here. So like okay, hold on. Try files. Yeah. Is this it? URI. Like okay, location. Designed to be included in any server block. Is this what I want? Wait, what? If you go to the admin. Wait. Here, let me try this one first, and then if we need to do it again. This video is devolved into watch Jason learn how nginx works. No. Maybe. Is anyone helping? Local allows you to switch your web server between Apache and nginx. Can you do it? Hey, Tans. If I stop the site, can I do it with a site that's already in there? Let's see what I can change. Utilities, overview, site domain, change. Wait, that's the domain. Site path. Utilities. What's this thing do? Shows me the file. Maybe I really quick run up like an Apache one. I know how to change. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, maybe all right. WP core Apache. Advanced options. Don't use a blueprint. Okay, I think on later custom. PHP. Sure. Oh, it has to download it? No, let's get that. Database. Oh. Back. Don't use a blueprint. I thought you could choose Apache. Is it on like the next page? Oh, maybe I'm just remembering older versions. Did it? Oh, you know, I'm using like, you know, before I started local, maybe I'm using an older version. Before I started local, it asked me for an update, and I said no. So maybe it's possible my local is very out of date. Yeah. All right. That's TN's. Hey there, telling me this is only in the latest release. We're at 2 o'clock, so man, I thought I could end on like some kind of like epic, like quick coding rewrite, but I'm having local environment issues. Man, I want to do this. I'll stream again when I do that part. All right, but I have these really good notes that, man, like it's kind of good enough for a ticket. So maybe I start the ticket, and we can do that on the chat here too. Or I should take a note about what I was doing. Okay, so I want to take a note here. We could potentially like remove the need for the new whitelist options global by just using the registered settings one. What's it called? WP registered settings one, and like you know, like and then like building array in the right format. Where are these files? Oh shoot. Option. Yeah. For the add option whitelist function. Update the, what's that file called? Update option filter function, and remove the need for the global by just using the WP register settings one and building a one-time array in the right format. You know, like the group is in the args for the options in WP registered settings, like we would, you know, great arrays. Groups. Okay, so something like that. All right. I wonder if it makes sense to like open the ticket with all this information. And I think it, Jonathan, who was on here earlier, who's like on the core, one of the core WordPress devs, interested in this, said make one big ticket and we'll build on it. So it's kind of like, I think it's okay if I do this as like, hey, this is a first step. So let's go to track. What's traction engine? I hope it's core.track. Yep. We don't have to search. Create a new ticket. Okay, are you in the right place? Sure. We haven't done this for a while. All right, I'm creating a new ticket. I'm logged into my WordPress.org account, so you have to do that. And then, yeah, it's thinking it's a bug. So this, okay, so we'd say like, and I should, yeah, hold on. I'm going to use some of this, or even text change. Yeah, maybe it's like summary. Is that like a thing? All right, enhancement. It's like update code and comments to use more inclusive language. And then in the description, I'm gonna paste my thing in here. Maybe because I don't think I have a start here. We say like specifically we want to change any use of blacklist to blocklist, and any use of whitelist to safe list. And in some cases, a different word may be more appropriate, or the language can be changed to what it should. I spent some time finding code. Maybe I should, yeah. And took notes on what actions could be another thing, like sometimes there are dependencies that would like that. Sometimes the okay. All right. Boom. Paste. Am I gonna hit like some kind of limit? They're gonna be like, what? Jason, you're writing a book. What are you doing? I stopped using page breaks things at some point too, which were kind of helpful. Okay. So I was like, it's like, here are all my notes. I still need to do more research on uses of whitelist. In particular, I think we should break things down into smaller chunks. The easy cases, easy quotes. Like another point I didn't say about, yeah, I mean, I say below, like the theme stuff. Did I put a note on 2014? Yeah, I think I did I? Oh yeah, here to 2014. Yeah. I could put that up here, like, start notes. Okay. What do I say? All right. Sometimes words use better. Sometimes we need to work. All right. Sometimes you know, sometimes the use is in a default theme. Okay. All right. Do. Cool. And all my notes. I don't know if I have to write. I mean, maybe I can follow up. Okay. Giant description. Is that even going to work? Okay. Version. Well, I mean, oh, actually, I was on 5.4.2. Well, no. I was doing my research in the master branch of WordPress develop, which does that map to trunk? I think. I don't know if that's important. I think I'll leave that there for now. Workflow keywords. Yeah. I think I'll leave this, and someone who knows will put it. It's funny, like I haven't done this in so long. I should read this. Like, it's kind of expecting to bug. Is it really? What's expected? Provide additional information. Gutenberg issues in the Gutenberg issue tracker. Search for existing contributor handbook. Severity. Okay. Oh, look at this. Eesh. We'll go with normal. Component. And it's kind of everywhere. Like a lot of it's in comments, but also in options. So it's kind of discussion now, so I'll keep it to general. I think that makes sure that like the right person sees it. But maybe that's another thing too, is like this could be broken down based on component, but a lot of these things are kind of across different. When it gets broken down, when the option stuff gets put out, it'll be a ticket only about the options. Okay. Focuses on none of these that it's saying that. I mean, it's kind of an accessibility issue, but not really. All right. Create. I don't have files. I am not reporting a security issue. Okay. Create ticket. Oh, and this is what it's going to look like. Okay. Make sure that like my formatting doesn't get goofy. I should probably link to the searches I did up top. I didn't do that. So the And then this last one was like whitelist. So maybe like I should almost like start over. And then here's my search for whitelist. And then like, I guess I'll continue K, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Nothing kind of, you know, like my little dots, I can turn them into ones. Let me go from the bottom. Here. Does it do markdown if I make them all ones? But I'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. I think that's it for now. I mean, this formatting's a little janky, shoot, but all right, that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna submit it. I think you can edit if your formatting's weird. Cool, it's good. Is Jonathan still around? Should I assign it to you? I'm gonna create the ticket. Okay. Hey, thanks everyone for watching. Like, hopefully this was educational on a number of reasons. And people participated in chat. We spent 3 hours. We really documented a lot of the places, specifically where Blacklist is used and how to go about changing it. Some of these cases where the word shows up, it's a quick fix. And so actually, like that's kind of the most exciting next step, especially once we get through the whitelist too, is like the quick fixes should just be done and pushed out ASAP. Like, it's kind of like there's a couple of cases where the comment, like, this isn't even a list of things to block. Like, it's just a random word in the comment, like, use a better word. And so, yeah, that's what I want to do then is like, hey, here's the quick things, like push them out. And then it's like, there's a list of things that are kind of difficult, but manageable. It's like, yeah, you know, like we have to rewrite the code in a few places. Let's do that. And then there's a list of things that we are a little tougher. You know, we have to deprecate some functions and filters, but it's not, you know, there should be a path to doing that in the WordPress code. And then some of the stuff we got locked down at the end with the option settings and the safe list there. There's global variables that are being used in a bunch of plugins, and that's going to be really hard to change, but it's also kind of like, let's queue it up and tackle it. Like, break the problem down into smaller parts will make this feel like a lot more manageable. Okay, so I'm going to sign off soon. I'm also going to like fix my local dev environment so that's queued up to be able to do like actual code patches and pull requests. I'm excited to do that. Like, I've never done a GitHub pull request like against the core WordPress SVN repository. And then, yeah, if I do that, I'll stream while I do that as well. And cool. And I'm going to post the link to the ticket, and we'll follow up discussion on that. Thanks, everyone. See ya.